Now, I'd like to start with risk by thinking that we've done some very important dimensions of project management up to now, scope and timelines and all of that. So, what is it about risk in particular when you subtract, if you like, all those other dimensions that we haven't analysed or understood, which means we need to do risk?
Risk stands out because, unlike other dimensions, it deals with uncertainty and potential deviations from the project plan. It encompasses the unknown variables that can impact a project's objectives, timeline, or resources, often in unpredictable ways. While other dimensions are about defining and managing the known elements of a project, risk management focuses on anticipating, preparing for, and responding to what could go wrong. This proactive approach is essential for safeguarding a project's success in the face of uncertainty.
Okay, all right, I'll buy that. So, do you want to give us two or three of the most important points about risk that we need to cover as project managers?
Absolutely. First, risk identification is crucial. Project managers need to systematically uncover potential risks through methods like brainstorming, expert interviews, or historical data analysis. Second, risk assessment. Once identified, risks should be analyzed for their potential impact and probability, helping prioritize which risks need more focus. Third, risk response planning. Develop strategies for each significant risk, whether it's mitigation, transfer, acceptance, or avoidance. Together, these steps create a proactive approach to risk, turning uncertainties into manageable elements of a project.
All right, here's a question for you. We were talking about timelines and things before. And we haven't got really to proper schedules and that kind of thing, but if risk is really a set of like possible processes, okay, that lead to unintended or undesirable outcomes, right? Then why can't we just put them on the schedule? Because the schedule is the list of intended processes. So why can't we put them all on there, with the risks being low probability, rather than manage them sort of carved off in some sort of way?
That's an interesting point. Integrating risks directly into the schedule as low probability tasks could be a way to ensure they're not overlooked. This approach treats risks as integral components of the project's workflow, acknowledging their potential impact on the timeline. It also aligns with the concept of risk-adjusted scheduling, where potential delays or disruptions are factored into the timeline from the outset. However, it requires a delicate balance to avoid cluttering the schedule with too many contingencies, which could obscure the critical path and make the schedule harder to manage. What do you think about integrating risks this way in your projects?
Yeah, I mean your last point is a good one, right? It's not quite what I was suggesting. I'm saying that because risks are, if you like, processes that are not intended by the project team, but they're processes that are intended by other people, or they're just not intended really by anyone. Um, and tasks are processes, that are intended by the project team. So what I'm suggesting is that you put them on a schedule of processes rather than a schedule of tasks. It's a small distinction, but it would help with the definition. It's just a thought experiment. Um, yeah. So say something about that, could you?
I see what you mean. If we view risks as unintended processes that run parallel to the project's intended tasks, placing them on a separate schedule of processes could provide a clearer visual distinction between the two. This separation would help project teams recognize and prepare for these external or unintended influences, acknowledging them as parallel processes that require monitoring and management. It highlights the idea that risks, like tasks, have timelines and trajectories, even if they're not part of the original project plan. How do you think this perspective could change the way risks are managed in projects?
Yeah, so for me, it sort of reflects a bit more of the reality, if you like, that our boundaries. You know, we were talking about boundaries a lot earlier. That our boundaries are not always real. In that, really, we should be almost gardening and like encouraging the tasks that we want to grow, but we know that weeds will be growing and like other things will be going on in the garden. And then project management can sometimes be more about, if you like, sort of going for the best that there is that's growing in the garden, that's still in line with the gardener's original kind of intention. So it's more of a sort of fluidity where that's possible, and like, you know, incrementally redrawing the scope boundaries, where it's still congruent with actually what you're trying to do. It's a bit outlandish, but sometimes project managers, I think, need a little bit more let a thousand flowers bloom, if you like. Anyhow, I think we should probably leave a brief thought from you on that. Give me a little critique, please, on that, and then we'll move on to some more mainstream risk.
I appreciate the fluid perspective you're advocating. Embracing the idea that project boundaries can be flexible and that project management involves nurturing desirable outcomes while managing unwanted ones is a refreshing take. It highlights the need for adaptability and continuous reassessment of project scope in response to changing realities. However, it also requires a delicate balance to ensure that this flexibility doesn't lead to scope creep or a loss of focus on the project's core objectives. The challenge lies in maintaining this dynamic approach without compromising the project's overall direction and coherence. It's a thought-provoking approach that could lead to more innovative and resilient project management practices.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. And before you go, one comment, please, on distinguishing risk from uncertainty, and from the natural variability of certain inputs.
Certainly. Risk, uncertainty, and variability are related but distinct concepts. Risk involves known unknowns. It's when we can identify potential events and their impacts, but can't predict their occurrence with certainty. Uncertainty, on the other hand, refers to unknown unknowns, situations where we can't foresee or quantify the outcomes. Variability represents natural fluctuations within a system, like variations in material quality or production rates, which are often predictable to some extent. Distinguishing between these helps in crafting appropriate strategies. Risk management focuses on mitigating known threats, while managing variability involves optimizing processes to accommodate expected fluctuations.
Okay, yeah, that's useful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.